Hello again, Internet. I have invested in a new mic, so I hope the sound is going to be better this time. This time I'm going to start off with something that could have been a sister to Psycho Girl, almost. The idea to this image came from me and my boyfriend talking about movies, and he mentioned the heads on the wall that Elijah Wood's character have in Sin City. And then he said, if that would have been you, that would have been something else on that wall, wouldn't it? Now before you think I'm some weirdo, I need to explain why he made that remark. It's inspired by the fact that a long time ago, in a land far away, I went to this agricultural school thing because I wanted to be a groom for horses. But the first year we had to do a bit sort of all around stuff when it comes to all different kinds of farm animals, and this one day we had to castrate pigs. I wasn't a fan, and I actually ended up quitting. But of course I should never have told him that, because every time I picked up a knife, be it for slicing tomatoes or chopping onions or anything like that, he'd always look really nervous. So anyway, this is my take on the Black Widow and her trophies. Mustn't forget the trophies. I'm not quite sure what to say about this one. It just sort of happened while playing around, which is something that happens quite a lot with my images. They just sort of happen. And most of my images are a lot more saturated with colour, but this one just didn't feel like it should have all that much colour in it. I call it Shatter Me With Hope. And this next one is called Doom Bunny Part 3. This is a remake of an old image that I did 5 years ago called Doom Bunny. I like the camera angle and the pose I had going in the old image, but it just felt like I could do it better now after some practice. So I decided to redo it. And to be honest, you really can't go wrong with purple. And this one is called Unicorn. It's a bit of an experiment. I don't think I've done this much of an image entirely in Photoshop before. Usually both foreground and background are renders of some kind. But here most of the background is painted in Photoshop. The idea to the image comes from an Apocalyptic Berserk song called Until the End of the World. But I thought the title of the song Unicorn fit the image better. I also wanted to try a new format. Most of my images are very vertical, but here I wanted to experiment with something horizontal. And especially horizontal images work really well with negative space, and I just felt like this image needed that desolate feel. Here is another horizontal one. This is mainly just me eagerly waiting for Star Wars The Old Republic to come out, so I needed to get some of that anticipation frustration out. And again, I gave it quite a bit of negative space. I just really like that feel in horizontal images. I call this one May the Force Be With You. This one I call Confined. It's a very old image, over 5 years old or so, but I still like it. Sure, there are things I'd change about it today, but most of it I like the way it is. There was a point when I felt my old images were a lot better than my newer ones, when it comes to ideas and stuff like that. I thought I was more creative back then, but I think it comes and goes. This image also got a special caption written by a guy who calls himself Blurred Edge. And there was a great war in heaven, and half the angels were cast down, but not all fell to the same places, to each their own hell and torment for their indiscretion. The singers were cast into a realm of silence, the artists into darkness, the poets into a land devoid of words, each angel driven mad, demented, and twisted into demons by their punishment. And one was cast to earth, forced to suffer the fate mankind dictated for their world, to feel the pain of their greed and hate. But still she could not force herself to give up hope, and demon she was none. This one I call Hellgate. This image I made after being asked to do a bit of a walkthrough on how I make my images, so I needed something to document my progress on, and this is what came out of it. The walkthrough can be found on my site, on the gallery page of this image. It's mainly aimed at other poser users though. And this one I gave the super creative name Jungle Huntress. I know, original, right? I used to do a lot of images with moons in them, but lately I hadn't really done much of those, so I wanted to do one again. I always loved the moon and the bluish light it casts during the night. Everything looks different in moonlight. This one is called Gloria. Normally if I do an angel, I do a quite dark one. Granted, this one has dark clothes and wings, but I still see her as an angel of light. Not sure if it has to do with the background or the almost childlike face. This was mainly an excuse to practice painting hair. That is something that I'm usually not too comfortable with, especially moving hair. Constantly give me issues, and I often have to redo it 3 or 4 times to be happy with it. And this one is called Apocalypse of the Soul. This is another one of those music-inspired images. This time the inspiration comes from Apocalyptica. When I made this one, they had just released their 7th Symphony album, and I was listening to it day and night. And this was also the first time I'm trying glowy symbol thingies. The image feels quite strange and unfamiliar though when I look at it. It's just a bit too straight to be really me. This one I call The Vagrant. A long time ago I made an image called Love Is All Around Me with a lonely, unroady looking thing in it. And I wanted to do something similar again. I was debating for a long time if I should put will work for love or will work for a home on the little sign. But I decided that the will work for love option could easily be interpreted as some form of prostitution, which isn't really the love I was meaning, so I went with the home option instead. And this one I called The Last Ronin. This one I made right after I'd made a bunch of the Harvester series images, and they're quite monochrome in feel, so I wanted to do something really colourful as a counterweight. And I also got some new toys from my friend Jeff, so it gave me an excuse to use his outfit as well. And this one I called Fly Dragonfly. I had this period a while back when I did a bunch of these futuristic butterfly people, and this is one of those. I remember struggling with getting the camera angle right. I think that took longer than the whole setting up and the rendering process together. I'm quite sort of pleased that it actually finished eventually. So yeah, that was the last image for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video.